Ah, yes, it is us once again. And that means, of course, if you're watching this live, that is, it's Wednesday at noon Eastern Time. It is time for the High Noon Hemp Show. Well, it does say it, the greatest hemp video show ever in the history of the world. That's right, I said it. Come at me. Come at me with your rebuttals, whatever you got. Of course, you can find us on Facebook. That's the Temptations Beach Facebook page. We're on the Jedi Hemp YouTube channel as well, and at Temptations on Twitter. Well, Twitter used to be, now is X. I'm Stoner Jesus. He is Beach. Beach, you have your mic muted, apparently. I cannot unmute you. I'm not sure why that is.
Oh,
There we
here
go.
we go. How about that?
Beach is with us. He is high above the Temptations in Sharonville, Ohio at the Hemp Quarters. Beach, how are things this week in the world of Temptations?
It's good. It's fine. It's dandy. It is hemp, and we are here for it. That's right. Thanks everybody for being here for the High Noon Hemp Show. It's Wednesday. It's high noon. It's time to learn about hemp and all the great things that we know about hemp. Before we do that, let's get some things out of the way here. What is my script doing over here to me? Just so you know, the FDA has not evaluated this show for safety or efficacy. And let's all read the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the hemp fields of America and to the soil in which it is planted. One seed under the sun with responsibility, sustainability, and thrivability for all. That's right.
There you go.
You'll be reading that again tomorrow night. I'm twice a year. I get to do my hemp presentation for the UC marijuana class. Um, which I think is pretty neat. Usually about 45 to 50 students. Um, and I do my what I call my hemp note presentation. But Bonnie, who has asked me to do that, also the host of the medical marijuana meetups, she said, "Hey, we got to read that. We'll read that pledge before we start the class or when I come on." So kind of excited
Nice.
about that too. So we're gonna be getting it out there to everyone as much as we can. Another local, semi-local note: in a couple weeks, we've got an election. I realize that this is to legalize cannabis for recreational use, um, but we do support that. So get
Absolutely.
out and vote in Ohio. Um, also, vote for choice where you can, but it's a whole different issue. But we're definitely pro cannabis. I think the legalization of cannabis anywhere helps with the destigmatization of industrial hemp. If the federal government would legalize cannabis, maybe we could just, finally do away with all this um, criminalizational feeling towards industrial hemp. We're slowly getting there. Um, and so, we'll see. We've got a farm bill that they're voting on. Still haven't seen any language or really any talk of what may or may not happen when it comes to industrial hemp in this farm bill. Of course, they probably won't at this point vote on it till the spring. They can't do anything because they're sitting on their hands again. Without a Speaker of the House, the government does nothing. They have no Speaker of the House, so the government will do nothing. They never give us any money back when they're not working. I
That's
don't
right.
understand, but it's going to take that to at least vote on a farm bill. And I don't know how far along they are. I haven't heard anything. I definitely haven't seen any language that changes anything with industrial hemp in this farm bill. Um, the things we can only hope is um, they get rid of that. And I don't know if that the ban on if you've ever had a felony. In all honesty, that was part of the original, but I don't know if that's even still in there. I'll have to check that. Hopefully, if they make any changes, they're for the better. I know they won't be raising the THC. We're not ready for that yet. The THC limit, um, and so that's probably the biggest issue with it, more than anything. The testing. I did hear a rumor. I remember I talked about this maybe a couple 3 weeks ago. I did hear a rumor that they may take out the testing procedures, which would be great. Again, there's zero reason. The only thing that should be tested, if there isn't even a mandatory test on anything, should be the final product, not the actual flower itself. It should be the final product. The product goes to the shelf, it goes to the retailers. That should be what's tested, if anything. Um, and so, we'll see. But that would be big. And again, I think one reason why they would do that is because originally that had to have been done in a federal facility. All the testing on industrial hemp flower, which is mandatory, was to be done in federal testing facilities, which they couldn't do, and they still can't do. And every year they postpone that part of the law to begin with. So if anything, maybe they just say, you don't have to have it tested at a federal facility, because that has never happened. That is, they've never been able to hold up to that because there's too much hemp being grown, and the federal facilities can't keep up. And so every year they say, all right, we're going to postpone that rule for another year. And I believe they've postponed it enough that they can just take it out of the farm bill. And that's just, one more thing that would make things a little easier. And not necessarily make them easier, because it's just as easy now, because again, they just keep postponing it and saying, okay, you can have it tested anywhere. Any facility they can test for Delta 9 THC can do that testing, and that's okay. So we'll see on that. All right, let's jump right into the product spotlight. Sticking with the "It's Cold Here" theme, how about some top hand glove knit hats, as well as top hand glove scarves? Um, I definitely think this is pretty getting to be pretty essential around here anyway. Fall weather is here. In the mornings, it feels like winter. I mean, we're getting down into the 40s. I feel like we're actually supposed to get down into the 30s sometime soon. And so I'm sticking with the theme of winter gear for some of the products these days. Sticking also with that, how about the Planet Everywhere dog jackets? If you got a little dog, and I'm sure you do, um, if it gets cold, or is one of those hairless things, or doesn't have a whole lot of hair, a little hemp jacket. Uh, and again, that's hemp on the inside, and that's hemp on the outside. So if you do have a small dog and you want to try to keep it warm this winter, which you may need to do more than most winters, possibly, we'll see. Get in and get the made right here at the Planet Everywhere Manufacturing. Next one, not as much winter, but just as good as soap. We all need soap still. We should be washing our hands. I think that the more you wash your hands with a non-hemp soap, probably the more they would get dried out in the winter. So using a hemp soap to wash your hands will actually help that skin stay a little bit healthier. Because the hemp oil does absorb into the skin, and then you get all the nutrients and all the good things that are in that hemp, no matter what part of your body you wash it with. I shower, hand wash, all the soap. Obviously, all the soap that I own, whether liquid or bar, is hemp soap. And I feel like my skin stays pretty well lubricated. I don't have to use a whole lot of lotion. I do try to stay hydrated, which is also something else to keep your skin from drying out in the winter even more, is to make sure that you keep yourself hydrated. Just as important in the winter, I think, to be hydrated as it is in the summer, especially when it comes to keeping your skin healthy, wealthy, and wise, as they say. I don't know what all that means, but it sounds good. Um, and the last one, which I think I forgot to write down. Oh, that's right, the Green Springs Technology Pens. Everybody sees one of these every week if you watch the show. Um, Later, coming up soon, But giving a good picture of what we've got, I think this picture is upside down, but that's okay. Hemp upside down works just as well as hemp right side up, I believe. But the darker pens, you can see the ones that have the Hemptations logo with a little leaf. They come in three different colorways, basically, with the silver, the gold, and like a platinum or a dark, I don't know, gray, I want to call it maybe. And then the lighter colored one, that's actually 3D printed. So the lighter colored one is 3D printed, and then the darker colored one is actually injection molded, which is the two ways that we get any plastic products made of oil, for the most part, is injection molding or 3D printing, which, of course, as you can see, we can do with hemp. So get yourself a pen, or maybe, well, I hate to start talking about gifts and whatnot, but the holiday season's not too far away. I shouldn't mention it before November because I've always said if you talk about the holidays before Halloween, which is a holiday, so it really should be included. Maybe Halloween is the first holiday to start the holiday season, it seems like, honestly. It used to be Thanksgiving started the holiday season. But I'm seeing Christmas tree ads already, um, and so I think the holiday season marketing starts earlier and earlier every year. But I do feel like in my heart, if you mention the holidays before October or before Halloween, then it's too early. But but like I said, I include holiday or Halloween as the holiday, if not the first holiday to start the holiday season. It only makes sense. So if you know someone that really likes pens or likes to write or needs a pen, get them a hemp pen. Unique. You cannot get any more of a unique gift than the ones that you could get at Hemptations. I'm sure of that. And the one from my door, which is also on the same theme as it's getting cold, is my very thick robe. And again, this is made out of terry, which it's a terry weave, I should say. It's made out of hemp, but it's a terry weave. We've been talking about the terry weave with terry cloth. Um, so it's like super thick and nice and warm, which is something that I need, as I've mentioned in the past, between being skinny and being on blood thinners. Um, I get cold super easy. I have like heaters that I carry around with me. But anyway, um, that is and that is Indigenous Designs. Indigenous Designs. I don't know if Indigenous Designs is around anymore. Again, this robe is every bit of 15, 20 years old, maybe even 25 years old. I keep forgetting how long we've been around sometimes. I like to think of everything, some of the older stuff that I have is about 20 years old, but now it's getting to be 25 years old.
Yep.
I'd have to say we were open for about 3 or 4 years, and then we really started seeing the products. Around the year 2000, we opened in '95. Around 2000, I think we really started seeing a lot of the clothing, I should say, fiber products, really start to take off in the industry. And Indigenous Designs was one of those companies that worked a lot with hemp. There you have it, folks, from the product spotlight. 4 from the store, 1 from my door here on the High Noon Hemp Show. Dun,
Indeed.
dun, dun.
If you've never seen the show before, this is your first time, I'm going to tell you something that everyone else knows. Beach has a lot of hemp clothing. I mean, as relatively to everyone else on the planet, Beach has a lot of hemp clothing. You probably know someone who has they have a couple of shirts, they have a hat. Like, look at this cool hemp hat I got online. It's awesome. Like, that's great. But I'm talking a lot. So much so that we could build an entire segment around it called the Beachwear segment. And all I have to do is ask Beach one question, and he will tell us all about it when I ask, what are you wearing, Beach?
That's right. If you're curious, what are you wearing, Beach? I guess I'm going to memorialize the ending of the Reds season, since I Reds here. Little black and red baseball here is over. We had a nice little run in the middle of the season. I have to give them credit. But my hat, and I've been talking. I was saying that I have some officially licensed hats. This is not officially licensed, but it actually says the Miami Haze. So this is a takeoff um, of the Miami Blaze. Is that what they're called?
Um,
Basketball team.
the NBA team is the Heat. I'm not sure
The
what the
Heat.
NBA
That's
what
right.
the
That's
NBA
right.
team is.
That's what it's supposed to be. But this is yeah. That's what it is. That's right. This is the Heat, the Haze. But this is a grassroots hat. We love our grass. I love my grassroots hats. They do a lot with hemp. It's true. My jacket there. That's a pretty rare hemp jacket. That was made by Smith Center. Again, every bit of 20 years old or so. The Smith Center was, I believe, operating originally down around the Louisville area, if I remember correctly, back in the day. It's more of, I have to say, like a medium. It's a little bit weighted, a little bit thicker, but kind of a medium weight jacket, but just enough to keep it going. And again, I don't know if Smith Center clothing uh, exists anymore either. There's two searches for after the show that I'm going to have to do, I suppose, one way or another. And then you've got the Hemp Company tee printed right here at Planet Everywhere Manufacturing with the Heads logo. That's right. It says Heads if you look closely inside of there. You can call it Cheds if you're like the news reporter that interviewed me once. He said, "I love your Cheds shirt." No, like, it's actually Cincinnati Heads. It's good. You know, you can barely see, but it's got 420 on it. And in the back, it's got a big Hemptations with a big 420 as well. My pants, again, a little bit of a rare, but possibly available at their website. These are Hempest pants. And again, the Hempest, I think it's the Hempest. There's two different Hempests. One makes soap, and the other one is a retail shop. One's, I think, on the West Coast making soap. The other's a East Coast retail shop that has a really good selection of hemp goods on their website, between pants and jackets. And this is their brand. They do a little bit of their branded stuff if they're still manufacturing, and then they also do other people's products on their website. And I do believe, I don't know if they were boasting the largest selection of hemp goods online or not. I know Ronique might challenge them with that. I have not checked them recently, but you know, I think anybody times whether it's true or not. If anybody says they have the largest selection of hemp goods uh, on their retail site, I'm going to investigate that just to see what they have. We boast the largest selection of hemp in our stores. I believe we have the largest selection of hemp anywhere in the world at Hemptations. Uh, but I haven't. There was at one point possibly where I had a whole lot of stuff on our retail website, and I could easily add probably 100 products to our website. I don't know if I'm just lazy or what, and I just need to get back to it. I need to get dedicated to adding more hemp products um, to our website and try to get it to have the what we can boast and brag and say is the largest selection of hemp online. Anyway, now in my pocket there, as always, just shown in the product spotlight, my Green Springs, one of my Green Springs technology pens. I have multiple pens, some with purple ink, some with green ink, some with black ink. It's just random how that works sometimes. Underneath it all, I love Bad Briefs. Originally, I believe I found these on Amazon. I do believe that I Love Bad still has a line of hemp briefs in underwear, women's and men's, um, online. Or again, I got those on Amazon. So check those out if you need to. Women, they do it. They did have some women's undergarments as well. Satori socks, everybody recognizes probably that leaf at this point. I have a ton of canna leaf Satori socks out there. These are obviously the red and black ones. And then on the feet, and you can barely see that. You can see the love, but those are Circa sneakers. Um, Skateboarding originally, I believe, probably Circa. It's one of those skateboarding companies. But there you have it. From head to toe, now you know. What are you wearing, Beach? On the High Noon Hemp Show. Ba-da-da.
Indeed.
All right, let's take a look at a little one of those movie trailers that I made years ago, and we'll be back with some news.
Oh, hold on. I didn't upload
Oh,
it yet.
no. Oh, no. It's coming. This might be, and I don't know for
Okay.
sure if this was the first one I made or not. So we'll see.
Now we have it. Now we're ready to go.
Here it
Here we go.
comes.
Wow. Well, that don't
They're
get you going.
loud.
No.
Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't get you excited about hemp, I don't know what will, to be honest with you. I do believe that was the original because I did call that one Hemptations. So that may have been the very first of those movie trailers that I had made back in the day. So, and I think that as far as I know, there was only one or so products in there that I saw that we don't have anymore officially. And of course, most of those stores don't exist anymore. But we're still in Sharonville. We're still in Northside. So check us out there. All right, let's get on with this news. So Kentucky is voting in a new commissioner of agriculture. Um, I think both support the hemp industry, which I think is what I think is interesting. Is the Republican? Um, he actually grew hemp like right out of the gate back in the day. I think that he was working with the company outside of Lexington, and I can't believe I can't remember their name, but they had claimed that they had bred a 0% THC. Their facilities then caught fire, and then they closed, and they don't exist anymore. So I don't know what was really going on with that. All in all, I did tour that facility back in the day. Again, this was 2014. The original farm bill that made industrial hemp legal to grow in the United States was passed in 2013. First crops came in 2014. There was about 5.5, 7.5 acres grown in Kentucky. We toured about 5.5 to 7.5. I think there was only I think there was only one, maybe one other grow that we did not go and visit on our little hemp tour in the fall of 2014. Um, that being said, those pictures of me in that last trailer where it said no herbicides, no pesticides, that was the first field that we toured right outside of Lexington. And again, maybe an acre, maybe two um, and that, they're still growing strong. Those growers are still growing, as far as I know. And so I might have to go back because I do think we're almost very close to, and must have it happened just recently that we would have been down there because one of the pictures I think popped up recently um, was this happened on this day, however many years ago, which is almost 10 years. Almost 10 years ago, we toured those fields. So I have to go back and find some old pictures and show everybody some of those old original pictures of that first 5 to 7 acres that was grown in Kentucky under the pilot program, one way or another. So, I don't know if that helps the hemp industry that this guy grew and then worked with a failed company, or it helps or hurts. I don't know. I can only hope that it would help in him knowing what maybe needs to be done to help promote more hemp and less CBD, because I really think that's the next move in any state. Um, there is enough CBD being grown now that we don't need to grow any more CBD. We need states to focus on fiber and grain at this point of the hemp growing. And we've got room to grow there. The boom may have happened for CBD, okay, but the boom has not happened. The boom has not happened in the United States for grain or fiber. Canada's seen the grain boom, and they've done quite well with it. China probably saw a little bit of a fiber boom over the last, little bit, but it's still not. We're nowhere near growing enough industrial hemp to supply the world with all the food that it needs and all the clothing or fiber that it needs, or for that matter, the construction materials that it needs. So we're still moving along. And if I was running for the commissioner of agriculture um, in Kentucky, then I would be trying to promote the growing of fiber, promote the growing of grain, find the resources for farmers to get those products to a manufacturer or a processor or retailer one way or another, because that is an unbelievable amount of room to grow when it comes to growing, a pun intended, um, for fiber or grain. So good luck to both. Um, they were both farmers. The Democratic, she was raised farm. Um, and so we can only hope. Quarles is he was great. He was okay. Sometimes he said things that weren't necessarily true because even he wasn't as up to date on really industrial hemp as he should have been. But he was the reigning guy for 8 years in Kentucky, overseeing the hemp growing there. And again, he was supportive, but not always as educated, I think, as he could have been, and not always saying the things he could have said. He said things more like a politician than he did someone that was the head of the farming industry in a state that has a lot of farming.
Yeah.
So, it is. It was what it was, and we'll see. We'll see what the new people do. Hopefully, whoever comes in, Republican or Democrat, tries to move industrial hemp forward still. There's plenty of room to move it forward. CBD may be stagnant or even on the decline, but there is plenty of room to go up with, like I said, grain and fiber. So, how about the eau de parfum? Now, there have been others that have tried to replicate the smell of cannabis in a perfume synthetically or with smells or whatever. These 7 eau de parfums actually are using cannabis. And I think what we're seeing is, well, here's what's interesting. Okay, so we'll start at the top left corner there, which is cannabis santal. Okay, and they didn't mention what they were really using to get the cannabis santal. Um, but ganja, the one right below that, now what they described was hemp accord. And I'm not sure, again, once again, I should have looked it up what they meant by hemp accord. Someone in the perfume industry might know what that accord means, but they are using some actual hemp. And again, I feel like to make any of these legal to sell over the counter, it all the cannabis, whatever part of the cannabis they're using, has to come from industrial hemp. Okay, you can't legally in the United States anywhere, and probably in most countries, you couldn't sell a cologne, an eau de perfume, uh, that had marijuana, as we call it, or extracts of marijuana, that would still make it a marijuana product. So, in order for all these to be legal, in my opinion, all of whatever they're using has to come from industrial hemp. That being said, the chronic right there in the middle, they say that actually has cannabis accord, ACCORD, accord. Um, and once again, what that means as far as what it is, I'm not positive. I don't really understand what accord means when it comes to being a cannabis ingredient in these colognes.
I looked it
Ironically,
up. Uh,
yeah.
Google says in the same way you hold down several notes in music to create a chord that has a unique sound, a perfume and a chord is a scent made up of several perfume notes or ingredients that blend together to form a distinct fragrance.
Okay, so they're taking multiple parts of the hemp plant and making a one part. So basically, they're taking a bunch of parts, making something, and then they're taking that and adding it to. Okay, makes sense. So now it's making sense. Um,
Well,
so we go.
information.
This is we say that, but now we're going to move on to the herbalist, which is right to the right there. And according to them, they use a Lux, Luxe, blend of hemp. So is that still a hemp accord? But a fancy way of saying hemp accord is to say
Look
Lux,
that.
a Lux blend um, of hemp. And so once again, and I mean, sure, I don't know why there aren't more clones. I mean, maybe they're just afraid, but why is there not a? You would think that Axe would come up with maybe a terpene based body spray, uh, because again, that's all it would take would be using the terpenes, because the terpenes in cannabis are normally what we believe make the scent of cannabis, and there are many terpenes when it comes to cannabis. There are some main ones that most cannabis have, and I think if you could, you can extract those, and we can legally extract them from industrial hemp as well. And we're seeing, added into food product, added into, normally, I think that if, and this is the way it should be, if a, say, a CBD card or our Delta 9 cards, if it's actually named after a strain or cultivar, as I like to say, of cannabis, then it's the terpenes. It should be the terpenes that really hold that definition. Because again, once you get the Delta 9, the Delta 8, the CBD to its isolate form, it doesn't matter whether it came from a sativa, it doesn't matter whether it came from an indica. It is just going to be effective in your body the way the Delta 9 would hit you. It's all the other terpenes and cannabinoids. And I mean, there's so many ingredients in cannabis flower. That's why we can't synthetically replicate cannabis flower. That make up that and give you that entourage effect. They say, including the terpenes. We're finding more and more um, therapeutic value to the terpenes, as we say. I'll talk a little bit more about that on a secondary terpene here in just a minute. Um, let's see, down below you got the cannabis patchouli. I did see patchouli in a lot of these. Ironically, I guess that's kind of stereotyping, assuming that if you're going to smell like cannabis, you want to smell like patchouli. I don't know. It might be smart marketing, in my opinion, honestly. um, and then one called Stoner, and they didn't really mention for Stoner or Cowboy Kush, which are those two bottom on the right there. They didn't really mention. I could have looked at that Cowboy Kush label a little bit. It might say on there exactly whether it was an Accord or a Lux. I'm sure Stoner was just Accord, but maybe no. But very very interesting. And again, I would have to do a little smell test to decide. We've had incense. I've seen incense and I've seen cologne in the past praising themselves as cannabis smelling or smelling like cannabis. And the incense they used to have was terrible. No one, and I can't believe, in all honesty, that wildberry incense, one of the largest in the United States, the only incense to be imported into India, as far as I know. I don't know if they still are, but at one point they were. That's how big they were, and how good they are, because their incense is good. Um, I really find it hard to believe that they had, over the last 20 years or so, have not come out with almost their own line of um, cannabis inspired smells, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, so there's an idea for you, Wildberry. Come up with a whole new line of cannabis inspired scents. Um, Although it's like people that use cannabis love or at least like the smell of it, and you get complaints from people that don't. Whereas, in all honesty, it is not noxious. It's not. It's never been determined to be a noxious odor. But we're still seeing complaints from people supposedly that live close to even hemp farms, and they complain about the smell once a year, um, which happens. Every crop smells once a year at some point or another, whether it's because they just sprayed it with fertilizers or they sprayed it with chemicals. Which, trust me, I'm going down the road. I smell the chemicals sprayed on the plant. I feel like I have more of a right to complain about that than the natural smell of a plant that's being grown for any purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nature. These same people go to church every year, every week, and talk about how God made everything, and then they complain about the smell of cannabis, which is 100% natural. I don't, you know, and only because, once again, and who's to say whether it's really a skunk, because some cannabis does smell a lot like, I mean, identical to the smell of skunk. Um, um, or was it a skunk? I mean, if you live in farmland and all of a sudden you're smelling that skunk smell, you're going to blame it on the hemp? Or maybe blame it on the actual skunk that just sprayed something in the woods and that wafts all the way through and you smell it. So, anyway, until, and it will never be scientifically proven, so to speak, to have a noxious smell, because that would be the only way that they could really govern it. Although certain places do try to govern it. They try to say, well, you got to be so far away from this and so far away from that. Or if you're growing indoors, you have to have an unbelievable amount of ventilation that purifies the air before it comes out, and there's no odor, blah, blah, blah. And I can see that being more of an issue indoor growing, because it might smell like that year round for indoor growing. Okay. But it only smells like that for maybe a couple, 3 weeks when it goes to flower at the end of the year, and then has a really good flower on it. That's the only time that it potentially is going to have that odor, one way or another. And then the other 11 months out of the year, there's no odor. So I feel like sometimes people just need something to complain about. And they don't even really know what they're complaining about, in all honesty. It's crazy. Um, okay, article. Architects are turning to cannabis based hempcrete that could revolutionize the way we build our homes, which we already know. I think there's some picture of some hemp bricks here, and again, hempcrete is becoming very, very popular in the world. Quote from the article: Hemp's strength at sequestering carbon could be crucial for a building industry that is currently responsible for 39% of global energy related carbon emissions. 39%. Okay. Just so you know, hempcrete is carbon negative. I talked about this on the show a couple weeks ago. Okay. It actually takes in twice as much carbon as trees. Okay, then when you turn that into hempcrete, it stores it, and then I believe they say it still is absorbing carbon. So it's carbon negative. The construction materials are carbon negative. You would almost think that there should be some credits there for people using hempcrete for everything but load-bearing walls. So far, we have not come up with, although one of the universities did come up with a load-bearing quality hempcrete. We still have not seen that approved for load-bearing, but for everything else, walls, exterior walls, interior walls, insulation, all of that. Um, Hempcrete is widely accepted. You think being carbon negative, that construction companies could get some type of bonus, for using that. But again, that switchover is years away until we're building more with hempcrete than we are with concrete. Um, and again, um, sand mining is causing increased flooding and erosion. And there is going to be, we are going to run out of the right sand to use in concrete. They know this. They're not too concerned about it because they think it's 40 to 50 years away. Well, that's not that long. And I don't know why, when we have a perfectly good alternative, I don't know how much load bearing hemp or concrete, gets used in the world. Probably still quite a bit. But as far as the secondary um, hempcrete use, if we could cut that concrete use in half, even right now, I'm sure we could probably cut concrete use in half by switching over to hempcrete. And it's just using different ingredients. There's nothing to the procedure to make it the same. You can still use your big trucks to turn it. You just throw all that stuff in there, the hempcrete and the lime and the other mix, and be done. And you don't use any sand and or gravel, which again, there's particular sand and gravel that has to be used in concrete. It can't be desert sand, as I've mentioned before, because we have bazillion whatevers of desert sand. But apparently, desert sand does not work for concrete. Only the particular sand where they're mining it and destroying the rivers and the oceans and pulling all this out is what can be used. So finding alternatives to that only seems logical, and hemp is the alternative to that. We just keep promoting it and keep building with it and keep using it, um, and eventually, we will be building more with hempcrete than we are concrete. Is
Mhm.
that 20 years away? It might be 20 years away. I would love for it to only be 10 years away, but we'll see because it's taken a while. But it really has caught on. It's one of the most popular subjects of hemp out there, as far as what hemp can do and what it is doing. Um, so build more with hemp. This is kind of interesting. Now this is 5 breweries in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's famous for brewing beer. We all know this. Okay, and I don't know if that's because their river water there is like good for it or not. I don't know. But 5 breweries in Milwaukee known as River West Brewing Syndicate, the River West Brewing Syndicate, chose toasted hemp seeds for its 7th collaboration. Um, and so it's called Toasted Hemp Pale Ale, and it was released this week. So I assume that if you're in the Milwaukee area, there was, I know there, yeah, there was, I mean, I assume it's going to be at the 5 breweries. I don't know if all 5 breweries brew it and then have it available with the same ingredients. Um, it seems kind of weird because I think they only used maybe 28 pounds of toasted hemp seed, which doesn't seem like a whole lot when making like a big vat of beer. I don't know. If you're not sure or you don't know, um, cannabis and hops are in the same family.
Mhm.
Um, now they didn't use the flour. There's a different, which would be interesting to see if they could use the industrial hemp flour like they would use the hops flour. Uh, to brew, but they toasted the hemp seeds. Now there have been some hemp seed beers in the past, and so we'll see. We'll see. I doubt I'll be able to get my hands on any of this. But if you're in the Milwaukee area and you're coming to Cincinnati, find me a 6-pack, or maybe it's probably a growler. You have to bring me a growler of the toasted hemp pale ale. So it is logical. It seems logical. More people should be using hemp in their beers, and I can't believe more people aren't using more hemp in their beers these day and age. I talked about that secondary terpene. It's called eucalyptol. Does that sound familiar? It's because that's what gives eucalyptus its cooling benefits. So
Hmm.
now, once again, eucalyptol is a secondary terpene. So the amount of eucalyptol that you will find is probably pretty low. Now, what we should be doing is breeding more of that, or bringing that up. We can do anything when it comes to breeding, when it comes to cannabis. So we need to find, even a CBD plant. Somehow it's high in eucalyptol or cannabis and breathe the THC out to make it legal, um, to get, what they think is those cooling benefits of cannabis. And when smoking, that may help. That eucalyptol may help cool the throat when it comes to smoking. Uh, and so, and I like that taste, so to speak, and I love the smell of eucalyptus. People might not complain about your cannabis as much if it smelled like eucalyptus.
Yeah.
I'm just exhaling some eucalyptus here. That's all. So we'll see if we don't see some, and again, we're going to see the raising and lowering and whatnot of terpenes as we have already, uh, um, for particular strains or cultivars of hemp or CBD or cannabis, period. So I was talking about I wasn't sure about Alaska. I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. I wasn't sure about their laws in Alaska. It is legal to grow, and apparently it was kind of difficult. Um, but they are going to make it easier in a sense where licensing and registrations and all that stuff is going to become easier. But they are going to make it harder on the end result because they're saying that you can't have any Delta 9 or naturally occurring cannabinoids in the products, which again goes against the federal law, which is you get that 0.3% Delta 9. All of a sudden, full spectrum CBD tincture is going to be illegal in Alaska. Watch your laws soon because this is coming according to the way this is worded. Okay. So you cannot, you'll no longer be able to sell CBD or Delta 8's obviously going. That's what they're talking about, and they're naturally occurring. Even though Delta 8 is naturally occurring in a very tiny amounts, they call it a synthetic because you actually take part of the plant and change it into the Delta 8. Um, Delta 9 is naturally occurring, and there's an allowable amount federally. So we'll see if this Alaskan law or policy, I don't know if it's law or policy, because they almost made it sound like your hemp wouldn't be recognized, but it might not make it illegal to grow. But it could be very soon illegal for any hemp products, tinctures, gummies, CBD, to have any Delta 9 in them. So you have to have the isolate, no Delta 8 anymore. And then, of course, none of that legal Delta 9, which is, once again, legally extracted from industrial hemp and fully recognized by the federal government. Taken off the controlled substance list makes it completely legal. Um, so, interesting move there, Alaska. They make it easier to grow, but harder to sell. And they listed the farmers, which I don't really understand. It says growers, manufacturers, and retailers cannot have any Delta 9 in their hemp to sell it. Well, that means no farmer in Alaska by how this is possibly worded, could even sell their hemp to anybody to make anything out of, even the isolate, like because it's got Delta 9 in it. And so I can't sell it to the manufacturer, supposedly, if I'm a grower. I can't sell it to the manufacturer for them to make an isolate out of it and take that Delta 9 out, um, according to how this is written. So I do believe this is going to be another state law that is probably challenged pretty quickly. We've got some time because the growing season's over this year, and I think this does become effective pretty soon. So we'll see once it becomes effective how much backlash it gets, and whether they realize that they can't say that. They can't say that with the federal laws. They can say that, and that will destroy. You will no longer be able. You can make it as easy as you want to get a license and register it, and all of those things, but you will not be able to legally. You can legally grow it then, but you won't be able to legally sell it.
Hmm.
So who's going to do that? No
Yeah.
one. You're going to go for however many acres of hemp they're growing in Alaska now to zero because none of it, if the growers can't sell flour that has Delta 9 in it, that legal amount, 0.3% by dry weight, to anyone, then they can't do anything with it because the growers aren't going to be manufacturers. I mean, is that the way it's going to have to be? Is like you're going to have to be the grower, the manufacturer, and the retailer so that you can grow it. I don't even, extract all the other stuff that you can't legally have in it and then put it on the shelves. I don't know. It's an interesting one, Alaska, for sure. Um, this is kind of interesting for all the wine lovers in the world. A New Zealand study at a winery showed that hemp is viable cover crop when used with grapes growing for wine. And they said it produced a perceptually better wine. So I don't know what that really means, but the people that drank the wine perceived that it was actually a better tasting wine when they used the hemp as the cover crop. And so, New Zealand is they're really up in their hemp game because it seems like they are all the time, whether it's hemp food, hemp clothing, hemp cover crops for wine, you know, they're really embracing the legalization of growing industrial hemp and trying to use it for as many benefits as they can. Same with Australia. Australia, they were both kind of late to the game, I think, but are both really embracing the idea of industrial hemp. Um, so the Food Standards Agency in the United Kingdom has reduced the recommended daily allowance of CBD from 70 milligrams to 10 milligrams. Um, Now, I didn't really see the studies, and this is kind of interesting because, we do need to see more of this. Now, they were saying that one of the reasons they did that is because there were studies or something that showed that that CBD may have long-term effects on the liver, and now they actually added the thyroid. We kind of knew liver. There might be something with the liver, which I'm not sure about. Maybe the liver just doesn't process it correctly or whatnot. Whether it does long-term damage or not, we really don't know yet. But their concerns for that made them reduce this recommended daily allowance to 10 milligrams, which is not a lot at all. I truly believe, you don't need much more than that at a time for it to be effective. And 10 milligrams is effective, for maybe like one dose, not maybe for the whole day. So it's going to be interesting. We really need to see more long term. This is going this isn't going to help our FDA issue because the FDA is going to see this and they're going to be like, well, if they reduced it and they're saying this, and that's fine. If the FDA was to come out and say that 10 milligrams is the recommended daily doses of CBD, that's fine. If they would just approve any amount for a daily dose so that we could put that on the label and say, hey, this is, you know, 500% more than the daily allowance, but here is the recommended daily allowance. And again, this is kind of why the FDA is shrugging, because there was questionable long-term liver issues when it came to CBD. The thyroid, this is the first time that I've seen that. Um, and so, we really do need to do more long-term effects. I don't know how there can't be enough people in the United States using CBD on a daily basis that we couldn't start a huge study to find out whether it really does over long term do damage to the liver or negatively affect, not maybe damage, but negatively affect the liver or negatively affect the thyroid or negatively affect any of the other organs um, that it may pass through one way or another. So we'll see. We'll see. This is kind of cool. Kia is now going to get into um, the hemp composite game as far as they're proposing. We'll see on their pilot programs for some of their electric vehicles to start using hemp composites in their dashboards and things like that. As I've mentioned before, this lightens the vehicle exponentially. Um, BMW lightened their vehicles by 20% by using hemp composites in their doors, just in the doors, door frames. Didn't lose any structural ability or anything like that, and also sustainable. So, not only were they not using a plastic made of oil, but they were using a composite made of a sustainable uh, material, hemp, and lightened the body weight, which is, makes all the difference in the world, makes that vehicle even more environmentally friendly and efficient. Good job. So we'll see. Good job, Kia. Hopefully we'll start seeing those components in the new Kias when they release it. This was once again kind of a projected vehicle for them as they are going to enter or getting into the EV electric vehicle game. So, Telray, probably the one of the biggest distributors of cannabis products as far as THC, Delta 9, all those things. Um, they are now moving to hemp in their packaging. We've been talking about this, and there's some other companies that do this, but they are going to go to the hemp composite tubes for their pre rolls, and they are also taking a little, I have to say, a little keynote from us here at Hemptations, because if you didn't know, the mouthpieces of our carts, Delta 9, Delta 8, whatever it is, of the Hemptations brand, are made out of hemp composite. So now this huge brand, is going to start doing that as well, which is going to, I mean, in the long run, uh, that's a big move um, to get rid of plastic containers. So they're replacing what would have been two plastic containers or plastic materials with hemp composite. And then I saw something which I thought was interesting, but they are going to go to recycled bags, which is okay with me. I'm okay with using recycled material as much as I would be make those bags out of hemp too. Very
Yep.
possible, one way or another. Um, okay, so here's another state that Maryland. Okay, they tried to make THC illegal, no matter how much it was, in hemp products, but a Maryland judge paused this ban on THC in hemp products. And once again, you look at the federal laws and the logistics of doing this to hemp companies that have been operating legally um, one way or another. Uh, and so, um, this is just another state that tried to make THC, Delta 9, illegal when it is, once again, 100% legal federally, and makes it almost impossible for the industrial hemp CBD flower industry to exist, just like the Alaska thing. And so Maryland tried it. Judge is pausing it. He didn't say you can't do it, but he's pausing the ban for now. Um, I think until they can figure it all out. But I do think that once they do, then they'll realize that that acceptable amount of THC, can't legally be taken out by the government. So, all right, one last thing with with this tattoo pavilion, which is basically kind of it's an example of hemp blocks, which I think is pretty neat. The way they did around the tree and building. And again, this is all temporary, just to I think show the locals and show the people what hempcrete can do. Um, and again, I would love to see. I don't think I have seen a large scale hemp block building. Most of the time, when they do the walls with hemp block, it's sprayed in. And again, I think that a lot of that is because of the load bearing part. You have to build the frame that's load bearing or whatever, and then spray that film in. But I'd really like to see, um, you know, I don't think you could build the exterior of a house with hemp blocks yet, but that would be really neat. The color is unique, um, and B, I think that would be. And I'm not sure that it still wouldn't be able to be load bearing one way or another. Maybe you just have to frame that in and then build the wall inside out of the blocks. But spraying hemp is probably the most popular way to use it. Hemp blocks are coming along. I've seen everything from hemp bricks, which is what I would call these. These are more hemp bricks,
Hmm.
to hemp blocks, to hemp blocks that are Lego style. And we haven't seen a whole lot of build projects. We've seen more like, I don't want to call it an art installation, but we've seen a lot of art installations showing how hemp blocks can be or should be used. This is, I don't know what country this is in. It was not the United States, um, but once again, pretty neat example of how you could use hemp blocks decoratively. If you wanted to build yourself a little decorative wall outside or inside, can easily be done with with hemp hempcrete blocks, as we would call it. And I love the again the basically the tree planter, which is
Hmm.
just the blocks basically around the tree with the dirt in the tree. Um, and again, safe for the environment, safe for the humans, antimicrobial, antibacterial, fireproof. All these things are why hempcrete alone is beneficial one way or another. All right, that's all the news. The only event that I have to talk about is the October 31st, Hempoween here locally. We have the marijuana meetup at Mad Tree Brewery. These happen once a month. Usually it's the first Tuesday of the month. This is the last Tuesday because it just happened to be Hempoween. And they're going to do a costume, or what I call a potstoom, um, dress up, and you can win something. I don't know what. Maybe as we say, Griggles. Um, but if you're in the Cincinnati area, and again, the medical marijuana meetups are there for everybody. I go as the hemp guy, um, and but if you got a good costume related to cannabis, then this is the perfect opportunity to show it off. Again, that's October 31st. So not next week, the following, a couple weeks. We still got to plan this out and get your pots tuned together um, for the event and see what you can come up with. I haven't completely come up with mine, but I do have a general idea of where I may go. So we'll see. I got a couple ideas of who I could be, um, and we'll see. We'll see where I get and how far I go. Um, well, I didn't have any questions for the Ask Beach Anything. Once again, I have made my beach thoughts pretty clear throughout the show. And so, with that, I bid all of you a hemp adieu. Remember, reduce, recycle, reuse, recycle. I'll get it right after saying it 200 and something times already. Reduce, reuse, reduce, reuse, recycle. Um, make everything else out of hemp. Having temptations.
See y'all next week.